I said '09 was going to suck. And yep, with you. Anywhere from 10 to 40 to 50% down. Worked with one business that was $250 million in '08. They'll be $100 million this year. A lot of fun, right? Another business yesterday, they're down this year $112 million from $260 last year. Okay, so yeah, '09, bad. And most of them down anywhere from 10 to 30%. I'm sure there's not a lot of disagreement in this room over those figures. Here's the bad news. 10's going to suck too. 10's going to suck too. This is not going to come out fast. This is not going to happen quickly. It's going to be gradual. Do I think we've hit bottom? Yeah, maybe. I think there's a little bit of a bull market now. I think it may drop off again. That's my guess. But all the indicators are that what happened in '09 is not going to get recovered in 10, and frankly, 11 is going to show slight recovery. That's my take. 9 sucks, 10 sucks, 11 will probably show a little bit of slight recovery. So here's the deal. What makes this situation different is the length. Before, you get, recessions, we've had them, right? We've had recessions before. Every 6 years we get one. They bounce out, they bounce back. Not this one. Not this one. And it's been discussed as to, why this is, and it's because, in general, it's a credit-driven recession. There's no cash, and people are very leery about spending it. So here's the good news and the bad news. The bad news is it's going to be around for a while. The good news is if you find a way to manage yourself through this, you're good for 3 years. Hopefully it'll get better than that. I don't think it's wise to prepare and hope that it's going to get better. Hope is a bad strategy. I like to say you can hope in one hand and crap in the other and see which hand gets filled up first. Yeah? Get yourself geared up. But the economy, I'm with you. If you tell me the economy's bad, I'm with you. It's bad. The competition is so desperate. You bet they're desperate. Darn right they're desperate. There's not a lot of business out there, not as much as there was before, and people would rather do anything except fundamentally change their businesses, so what they do is they just try to lower their prices and go out and get some business. That's what they do. I always like to say an industry is always in the grip of its stupidest competitor, just make sure it's not you. A lot of them out there, though. A lot of them out there. So the competition is very desperate. Change is so difficult. Yes, change is difficult. You've been doing it this way for an awful, awful long time, and you think you're making fundamental changes. Are you really making the changes that you need to make? And the answer is probably not. Most people say, we've done the cuts we needed to do. We did the restructurings we needed to do. We got ourselves together, but we've gone as far as we can go. Now we got to sell our way out of that. My response is, you haven't gone anywhere near as far as you could go in getting your business changed fundamentally and structured fundamentally different to get yourself together for the rough patches that we have yet ahead of us. But it is difficult. And again, lastly, you're doing all that you can possibly do. Joe, we're doing everything we can possibly do to make this better. To that I say, if this thing works, there we go. Here's the deal. This should liberate you. It'll probably frighten you. But it's reality. The reality is the economy doesn't matter much. Of course it matters some. Top line saves lots of problems. Top line cures lots of issues. Boy, anybody can manage in good times. Absolutely. Give me a choice of managing in good times and bad times, I'll manage in good ones. Even though the skills that I have developed over my career allowed me to outperform my competition in bad times much more so than in good times. If my competition sucked, but they had good top line, they looked pretty good. But when times got tough, that's when I could beat them, but I'd still rather manage in good times. But you can still manage well in tough times. And I can tell you, this year, Peter in the back can confirm, and I'm sure he'll do it tomorrow during his section as well. We've had businesses this year down 10, 20, 30% that are making more dollars than they were making last year. I talked to an individual this morning that I know very well who said, yeah, my top line's down like everybody else. I'm making more money. It can be done. So the economy doesn't matter much. The competition doesn't matter much. Yes, they'll still do goofy things. They'll still challenge you. They'll still crazily take orders that they shouldn't take. But at the end of the day, if you do the right stuff to your business, they're immaterial. If you focus on the things that you want to focus on, they're immaterial. There's plenty of business out there for you to win, and there's plenty of money you can make on that business. We're going to talk about how you do that. And change, frankly, becomes easier if you practice it often. You just got to be willing to do it. I love change. I get sleepy when things stay the same. Every time I give a talk up here, I don't prepare it. I have some general guidelines, but if I prepare it, it starts sounding the same way every time. The excitement for me is it's a conversation. It's a new day. That's the way I have to look at it as well. I think about my dad and fishing. I miss my dad so much. Here's a sad story. I retired a year and a half ago. That was on a Monday. My dad had been waiting for years for me to retire so that we could fish more. He knew I was going to retire for a whole year, and every day for a year we talked about how many more days, Joe? How many more days, Joe? How many more days, Joe? I retired on a Monday. He died of a heart attack on a Tuesday. The next day. I'll never forgive myself for that. Never. Think about that guy every single day. So I always try to get him into one of my speeches because he'd be mad at me if I didn't. So here you go. My dad would never change when we were going fishing. They bit on this yesterday. The weather was the same. The time was the same. We're in the same spot. They should be biting. I'm like, I know, but they're not biting, and I can't talk to them. But they're not biting, so change. Try something different. He wouldn't do it. I got 8 in a row, 9 in a row, 10 in a row. And he would look at me and say, this shouldn't be happening. And I'd say, yeah, but it is, and I'm sure having a good time. When are you going to join in? Practice change. Get used to it. If things don't work, change it back. Try to find a way to do something better every single day, because my last one at the bottom there, you aren't doing anywhere near all that you can possibly do. It doesn't matter what business you're in, what industry you're in, because there's always one more thing you can do. That's a line I stole from Hal Moore. Anybody see the movie We Were Soldiers? There was a book, We Were Soldiers Once and Young, written by Hal Moore, Vietnam. And great general. He fought in the Ia Drang Valley and against overwhelming odds managed to come out alive and to actually emerge victorious. One of the few times, I suppose, that happened in that conflict. But his book is great. His follow-up book is also great. And the thing I took away is that one line, which is, there's always one more thing you can do. There's always one more thing you can do. And so this call to action to you is that I don't want to hear about the economy, because it doesn't matter. I don't want to hear about the competition, because it doesn't matter. I don't want to hear about change being tough, because it doesn't matter. All I want to know about is what will you do tomorrow, and what's that one more thing that you're going to do. Let's wipe away all the reasons why we can't do it, and let's focus on the things that we can do to make the business better. And you know what? There are businesses bigger than yours, smaller than yours, same size as yours, same industry as yours, different industries, and there are some out there that are doing it. And we're helping some of those. And it's working. And the reason why it's working is because here's the promise. It always works. What I'll tell you about is this. If you do the stuff that I'm going to talk about this morning, if you do the stuff that I'm going to talk about tomorrow and that Peter's going to talk about tomorrow, if you do that stuff, we're going to make you some promises. It's going to work. Your business is going to be more profitable. Your business is going to ultimately grow. You're going to get more market share. You're going to work harder than you've ever worked in your life for a short period of time in exchange for eventually creating time. You're going to have more fun along the way, and you'll do it with very, very, very little risk. The meeting that we will have tomorrow, in my view, will only... Peter and I don't like to make big promises. We really don't. Well, he does. I just try to tone them down. But the promises we like to make are these. They're small ones. It will fundamentally change your life and your business as you know it. What do you think? That's not too much to ask, is it? Just fundamentally change your life and your business as you know it. But I'll tell you why it'll do that, because you know what? It did that with me. And 100 times over, and 100 times it works, and it never fails. What I start to realize is, you know what? It probably has a lot less to do with that guy in the mirror looking back at me, and a lot more to do with this process. This is a very process-driven approach. The reality is, it will work. So welcome to the MAFSI Business Accreditation MBA program.